Hello, welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me. In my series, The New World Order, Media and Press Releases, documents I've collected from press releases, document research, etc. Since 2005, when I began my investigation on the topic, what the heck is going on in the world? There were some strange things. Many people remember 2001 and those tall towers just dropping like they were invisible. Disintegrated. Building 7. Obviously a demolition job, as that one demolition expert said, who I guess he lived in Norway, when showed the video and told that it wasn't hit by a plane. I think his name was Denny. He said, absolutely, that's demolition. Days later, he was dead in a horrific car crash, smashed right into a huge tree. Just too much evidence out there to say that there's not some mysterious hand behind the scenes trying to bring about some new reality. So I think I'll name this video Weather Warfare. Another take on Sky Spring HARP systems. Documents I collected back in 2012. Again, it's kind of interesting, you know, little did I think back in 2012, 10, 9, 8, 13, 14, you know, that I would be sitting down one day actually making these videos, reviewing everything that I had saved day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Why did I do that? Now that I have done it, and I'm able to go back in time and review this stuff, I'm glad I did. I was worried the internet would one day be deleted, taken offline by the powers that be who wanted to bring about this new world order. And we all know the story. So I printed everything out so I would have the evidence. So nobody would call me crazy and I made it up. Like William Cooper said, document it, document it, document it. Don't talk about it unless you've documented it. So I'll start out with this document here. What are chemtrails? Chemtrails is the name given to plumes emitted by aircraft in the sky. Geoengineering is the name used to define the intentional process of altering or engineering the Earth's atmosphere. A rapidly growing number of people and organizations in numerous industrialized countries now believe chemtrails are visible artifacts of current geoengineering programs. In November 2010, the United Nations attempted to regulate them. Funny when you read this stuff. Mounting evidence suggests that millions of tons of aluminum and barium particulates purportedly used in geoengineering programs explains the dramatically increasing aluminum and barium levels in sampled water and soil tests. Scientists in several countries have linked recent plant and animal die-offs to aluminum and or barium toxicity, drawing even more attention to global geoengineering programs. Although scientists and activists are calling chemtrails the issue of the century, mainstream news has only brushed upon the subject, leaving the public generally unaware of what is now called the world's largest aerial operation in history. If you agree that spraying heavy metals on humans, animals, and public water supplies is a dangerous and irresponsible act, then consider joining with us to educate others about this unprecedented event. If you're not familiar with chemtrails, please take a few minutes and follow these steps so you can become educated and share this critical information with your friends and family. It's vital that you learn to protect yourself now against increasing levels of heavy metals being discovered in soils, foods, and water supplies. If you've ever looked up in the sky, you've probably seen these lines. And you got scientists who were taking measurements of pH and metals in soil. So here I was back in 2012. I actually became aware of what I call sky spraying. That's my term for it. And a couple other terms I have are when the lines are sprayed out of the jet, and as they unfold, blow in the breeze, so to speak, and you can see the streaks. It's the powder's blowing in the breeze, like sticky stuff sometimes. Anyways, as it spreads apart, you'll see the thick line if you pay attention for a few minutes and take pictures every 5 minutes of a particular thick line that's dumped out. Then you can go through the photos and see that it spreads out like a sheet, like a gigantic curtain. I call that splotches. And then, of course, if you get those gigantic sheets all meshed together, you have a white, pasty sky. And the bottom line is, as we have all heard the old saying, don't mess with Mother Nature. This planetary system can take care of itself unless they get an aggressive program, which is going on coast to coast in many NATO countries all over the world, that they are dumping these chemicals. I've had people over in Europe send me pictures, friends of mine who went on vacation, said, Rick, they're spraying over there too. It is concerning, and I think it's multifaceted in what it is intended to do and what it is doing. Obviously, one purpose is weather control, changing the temperature of the sun's radiation will alter the pressure and steer the jet streams, steer cloud formations. Another one is weather warfare, steering the jet stream away from California, keeping it to the north, causing a drought. And you'd say, why would they do that, Rick? Well, it would put a lot of people there out of business. And the banksters who kind of control our world, the elitist, and if you've been paying attention to my videos or even to what's going on in the world, they keep on giving us the fear of a stock market crash, dollar crash, and people losing their homes, jobs, cars. Somebody is creating this havoc, this destruction, economically and health-wise across America. So weather control, weather warfare, and number 3, a direct attack on the resources on planet Earth. Killing everything, it seems, from bees, birds, fish, trees. It's all been documented. And humans, some say Morgellons disease, the heavy metals in our bodies. So there appears to be a clear indication of an attack against humanity by the few. And we all know what's going on in the Middle East. Millions of people murdered. I say murdered. You can't call it a war. There is no civil war, as they would have people believe. And the poor Arabs on the ground don't really have any weapons. And like when George Bush attacked Iraq, he called it shock and awe. They just incinerated everybody. This is the mentality we are dealing with these aggressors. These are the same people dumping chemicals in the sky. Yes? No? Alright, so get educated about chemtrails. This particular press release was from globalskywatch.com. Whatarechemtrails.html. So one, it says you can sign up for the newsletter. Stay informed about the current developments related to chemtrails and geoengineering. And if you haven't seen my videos, I document the visible sky spraying on a daily basis when it's not overcast. And then once every week or 2 weeks, I make a couple videos and put them on YouTube. And that's been going on for 3 or 4 years, since 2011. But in reality, I have boxes of CDs with photographs before I started making videos since 2005. And maybe we'll take a look at that a little later on in this video. Alright, another document. Cyprus HAARP radiation revealed. I printed this out in 2012 as part of my investigation, but the actual press release was January 2009. www.unexplained-mysteries.com was the website. So, columnist Peter Fotis Kapnistos. I can never say some of these names right. We were sailing to the Isle of the Apocalypse. Patmos is that small Greek island off the Mediterranean Sea where almost 2,000 years ago, in a misty cave, St. John envisioned the revelation of Jesus Christ, the last book in the Bible. So this guy's sailing, and he's going to this island where they had this misty cave, where apparently St. John envisioned the revelation of Jesus Christ, the last book in the Bible. I had arrived by sea with 2 friends of mine, Varanus, an expert mural, Furnace Islands archipelago, saying that wrong, just north of Patmos, and a smaller inlet known as Forani. An unforeseen series of events suddenly changed our travel plans, but allowed us to actually photograph the glow or radial signature of what appeared to be real-time HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, broadcast from the British military base in Cyprus. So I've been saying this all along. They have these HAARP transmitters, many of them all over the world, strategically located north, south, north, south, north, south, in grid patterns. Why? So anyways, they can take these HAARP transmitters and turn on the microwaves, beam them off the ionosphere, and like you see over here by my finger, communicate with a submarine or aim it over any city. Those look like the Delta T antennas right there, which are the same ones apparently they used in Project Montauk to open up time portals. Isn't that interesting? I noticed that. Preston Nichols talks about the Delta T and those series I made from 73 to 82 in my series Freemasonry and Satanism on the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia Experiment. and the Delta T transmissions. See that antenna? Apparently caused the ship to disappear, and the SAGE antenna. So I just thought it was interesting that they would be making these 40 acres of an array of all these Delta T antennas to beam signals up to the sky and down somewhere, where apparently they could open up some kind of vortex time portal. And some other horrific things they've done, experimenting on abducted young boys at the end of Long Island at Project Montauk. People have photographed some anomalies in the sky. And apparently it can heat up the central part of the United States wherever they aim it. And there was a website, the HAARP Status Network, you can see on this picture in the top right. Interesting enough, also on this picture, a little advertisement there for Aliyah to Israel. Discover the benefits of Aliyah. That's the return to Israel. Amazingly enough, on the same website with the HAARP transmissions heating up the center part of the United States, which apparently causes crazy weather. And some of the stuff they dump in the sky is obviously made of chemicals. You can see the colors. Apparently they have floating transmitters. Ones on land that are on wheels. We're in trouble, folks. This might be what it looks like when it's turned on. You see the halo coming from it? So I'll stop with the pictures there for a moment and get back to this article. So these people are on their boat sailing to some ancient islands off of the coast of Greece. And an unforeseen series of events suddenly changed our travel plans, but allowed us to actually photograph the glow or radial signature of what appeared to be real-time HAARP broadcast from the British military base in Cyprus. So Cyprus is right off the coast of Israel. So I guess they could aim it to any one of the Muslim Arab countries. Below are some chronological details of our account and a brief description of the so-called British military HAARP device in southern Cyprus. On Monday, 17 October 2005, an earthquake measuring around magnitude 6.0 rocked Greece's eastern Aragon Islands at about 5.45 General Mountain Time, but no injuries or serious damage was reported. The epicenter was a short distance from where we were. On the same day, bird flu was reported in the same area of Greece. The country's agricultural ministry said a form of the bird flu had been found on a farm in the Aragon Sea, just a short nautical distance from where we were staying. Thursday, 20 October 2005, another earthquake measuring 6.0 Richter scale was recorded approximately 45 minutes after midnight in the sea on the eastern Aragon's island, where we were located, spreading fear and panic. The quake was the same magnitude and had the same epicenter as the previous tremor recorded on Monday. Friday, 21 October 2005. Throughout the day, we observed and photographed an uninterrupted sequence of aircraft leaving streaking contrails in the sky directly over the earthquake zone. So they observed over the earthquake zone probably something like this. And if you pay attention to where you live, you will likely see that kind of activity, intentional. You can look up and you won't see any jets if there's no spray lines. But when they're spraying, you can visibly see the jets at low altitude. They're about this big with your eye. I mean, you can see them. And they fly under the cover or in the cover, whereas if you ever fly on a jet plane, you know you fly over the cover. So anyways, this person is correlating the earthquakes with the HAARP transmissions and the sky spraying of chemicals. Just another piece of evidence we should pay attention to. The chemtrails did not dissipate, but instead grew larger in crisscross chemtrail patterns that soon merged together and became hazy, cloudy masses. As I described earlier, they unfold, become splotches, and form a white sheen over the whole blue sky. You shouldn't mess with Mother Nature. They probably know by now what this causes, the cause and effect. So they've been experimenting and fine-tuning the knowledge so they can use it as a weapon. The unusual flight activity continued nonstop during the entire day. So they're off the coast of some island out in the Mediterranean. And some jets are coming along doing this over the earthquake zone. The unusual flight activity continued nonstop during the entire day. We sometimes observed up to 4 or 5 aircraft at a time moving over the earthquake epicenter while seeding contrails that gradually blossomed into amazingly large artificial clouds. At about 1800, that would be about 6 p.m., we briefly observed and photographed peculiar lines of light and radio coming up out of the sea from the direction of Cyprus. So they saw some kind of line coming up out of the sea in the direction of Cyprus. So can the HAARP transmitter do this? I don't make these images up. You can go on HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, and images, or HAARP pictures on Yahoo search, and you'll see these pictures. And usually where they have the pictures, there's also a description in the bottom left of where these pictures come from. So lines of light and radio coming up out of the sea from the transmitter, from the direction of Cyprus, southeast of Fornia. It is important to note that the sun was in the opposite horizon. So they saw the rays coming up out of here when the sun was in the opposite end. So it wasn't the sun, according to this writer. Now, we don't believe everything we read, but if we read enough, we can formulate an opinion. It is important to note that the sun was in the opposite horizon when the photos were taken. What looked like radiating lines of faint sunlight diverging from the center, so a beam of light was the origin of the light, of the dusk, were certainly something else. Because the sun was actually setting directly behind us in the west, not even in the general direction of the camera's view, what caused the eerie golden spikes or rays of southeastern light? We can only guess it was electromagnetic radiation or photosensitive particles reacting to the twilight polarization from some unnoticed transmitter, natural or otherwise, in the direction of Cyprus. Our photos indicate that these spikes or beams of energy rising from the sea did in fact bounce or rebound off the man-made chemtrail clouds. and seem to return to the earth again for unknown reasons. So, they put this sheet, use this piece of paper as an example, this sheet of sprayed chemicals, heavy metals in the sky, aim the HARP transmitter beam at the cloud, artificial cloud, chemtrail materials, and it bounces back. Got another picture here. Oh my. According to this writer in this article that I found in 2012. What was I supposed to think? What was I supposed to think? Is thinking a thought crime now? Does that make me an anti-government belligerent for noticing this stuff? Does it make me a threat to the people who want to create a new world order? Does it make any sense why they want to disarm the people in America? While we're having all the terror and threats, plagues, stock market crash, dollar crash, World War III, terrorist, and so much more. We are under attack, as it appears from my research. I mean, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes, as I say, to kind of say there's something concerning going on here. So anyways, I got to find my spot. This is very tiny writing here, print. What caused the eerie glow, golden spikes or rays of southeastern light? We can only guess it was electromagnetic radiation or photosensitive particles reacting to the twilight polarization from some unnoticed transmitter, natural or otherwise, in the direction of Cyprus. Our photos indicate that the spikes or beams of energy rising from the sea did in fact bounce or rebound off the man-made chemtrail clouds and seem to return to Earth again for unknown reasons. The radii of light were not visible during the following days, and the aircraft flyover rate returned to normal eastern Aragon sea levels. So this was an intentional event. The jets showed up. They put the sheet of chemicals, white powder in the sky, turned on the transmitter, and were bouncing that beam off of the bottom of this heavy metal back down to Earth. And apparently some mysterious earthquakes resulted. Just using my God-given brain. Aircraft were laying chemtrails in the sky directly over the Aragon earthquake zone. 2012. I'm making this up. You can look it up. When the bottom photos were taken, the sun was actually setting directly behind us in the west, not even in the general direction of our camera's view. So they took pictures, and I suspect these pictures probably are not going to do justice, but I can see some beams of light. And remember, the sun is behind them, so these beams or rays are coming from in front of them, as you can see on this one picture. The rays are in front of them. The sun is behind them. Here's another picture. I'm not sure what to make of it. I'll read it. I'll read what's on the bottom of these pictures. Chemtrail seeding is visible at top left of frame with eerie rays of light rising from the Aragon Sea. The same image enhanced to detect rays. You saw those. Above, weird rays of light rise from the Aragon Sea and bounce off man-made chemtrails, visible at top of right of frame. Below, same image enhanced to detect rays. I got another image here. So remember, the sun is behind them. Those are not the sun's rays. You can look up this document. Chemtrail spraying programs, which apparently are being conducted on a worldwide basis, may have originated as experiments of weather modification by cloud seeding. But as more people take notice, they are questioning the health and psychological effects of whatever it is that's happening in the sky. Concerns are now growing over this disruption of migratory patterns and the spraying of aerosols that could promote the development of pathogens such as bird flu virus at high altitudes. After the Asian earthquake tsunami and Hurricane Katrina, many feel that weather modification is fast becoming a weather war and that the time has finally come to bring the matter to the attention of the public. HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Aurora Research Project, a joint effort of the U.S. Air Force and the Navy at a remote base in Kona, Alaska. HAARP generates millions of watt-phased pulses, which in turn generate extremely low frequencies, waves for submarine communication and tomography. So they can use them to bounce low waves, like a very low frequency, like a drum beat, boom, boom, boom. And if they pulse the ground with these booms, as you can imagine, just like if somebody beat a big cymbal near your ear, it's unnerving and it causes a lot of pain and torture. Big cymbal or a drum right next to your ear, or somebody screamed in your ear. So if they do it to the ground, boom, a gigantic sound wave. You can imagine how it could cause an earthquake. HAARP generates million-watt phased pulses, which in turn generate extremely low frequency waves for submarine communication and tomography, so they can x-ray the ground with this stuff. Its critics have argued that it may be used for mind control, weather control, weapon of mass destruction. The British Army is currently experimenting with an immensely expensive, ultra-sophisticated version of HAARP. So I'm only reading my highlighted portion here. You can go look up the document. There's more here to read. I can't read it all. We wouldn't move on to the next document. I have been saying, as a result of my research, coming out of the United Nations, which I firmly believe is controlled by the people with the New Age religion, the Luciferic, same religion as the Freemasons, Illuminati, Rosicrucians, witchcraft, Kabbalah, and I've said it so many times. You can get Constant Kumbi's book. Or even Rabbi Marvin Antelman's books, To Eliminate the Opate, Volume 2, and To Eliminate the Opate, Volume 1. So as I was saying, I had somebody come to my door to bring me my mail. To eliminate the opate, there is an organized effort to bring about a new world order. And it does have to do with destroying Christianity and bringing us a new type of religion. It seems that there are malevolent forces bent on destroying Christianity and other religions, any kind of decency, and replacing it with some bizarre new religion, as Aleister Crowley detailed in his book, The Book of the Law. And the number one law is do as thou wilt. What's that got to do with this sky spraying HAARP systems? Everything, I believe. And I did try to order a 900-page book off the internet called Global Biodiversity Assessment. And what I got was this summary for policymakers. You can see on the bottom. So they are feeding us the propaganda. And they got charts in here. Species dying and stuff like that. Overpopulation. This is back in what year? So they're sending these little guidebooks out to policymakers. Your local government, your local city council, town manager. Back in 1995, coming out of the United Nations. It says it right here. So it seems to me it's a means to take over the world, convincing everybody they have to increase the police state. God forbid you grow something in your yard without a permit. And so if you're aware of that, and then you see something like Robert Williams writing a book called The Ultimate World Order, because he found a book in a Texas library called The Jewish Utopia. You see it says it right there, Jewish Utopia. And he was an ex-intelligence officer for the military. So here's the another document showing where it came from, the Texas library. So I went over this in a previous video. And almost immediately after the communist conquest of Romania and Hungary, that's what it says on one of these pages here. I just want to show you that this book is worth getting. So the communist conquest of Romania and Hungary, it became evident that a few Jewish Reds had divided up the spoils amongst themselves. I just flipped it open to anything. So what I'm trying to say, if you read the Jewish Utopia, as intelligence retired officer Robert Williams, who also was publishing a newsletter at the time, if you want to go look at my video, I believe this was probably right number series 66, 60, probably 68, right around there, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. I'm up to number 83, so I have hundreds of hours of video. But if you read the Jewish Utopia, it clearly describes their intent to take over the world. And they have a horrific attitude towards we non-Jewish people. They call us goyim, which means cattle, and in the Talmud it says the best of us are to be killed. And again I say, you might ask me, what's this got to do with sky spraying and HARP systems, weather warfare, weather control, microwave transmissions, mind control, earthquake generators? I believe we're under attack. And another book I got, you can go online and probably find a PDF and print it out, which I highly recommend, is Protocols of Zion. Another horrific book. I'll read just the first page here. Protocol 1, and it's number 6 paragraph. Political freedom is an idea but not a fact. This idea one must know how to apply whenever it appears necessary, with this bait of an idea to attract the masses of the people to one's party for the purpose of crushing another who is in authority. So they want to create the conquer and divide. This task is rendered easier if the opponent has himself been infected with the idea of freedom, so-called liberalism, and for the sake of an idea is willing to yield some of his power. So with all these things, with terror attacks and threats, environmental, biodiversity, so it is my opinion, the attack on we the people, the same people who are sky spraying, spending our taxpayer dollars on making these weapons. Imagine microwaving a whole city, driving people mad. And there's other books out there. The Great Controversy, The Global War on Freedom. Notice the Ten Commandments. They want to ban the Ten Commandments from the county courthouse, but they want to put up a statue of Baffelant. Look that up on the internet. Baffelant, Oklahoma State Building statue. You can't make this stuff up. And then, of course, they're using another program besides the biodiversity called The Wrenching Transformation of America. This is a book called Agenda 21. You can look up Agenda 21. You can go to this website. So you got some forces trying to defend us. So what's that got to do with me doing these documents? Well, this next document will make it all appropriate. Rhode Island Environmental Police, Division of Law Enforcement. You're not going to believe this. So here I was back there in 2012 researching this stuff. What is HARB? Why are they sky spraying? What's going on with this sustainability, biodiversity? And it's all much clearer now. So anyways, the Rhode Island Environmental Police, Division of Law Enforcement, apparently some new job opportunities. The mission of the Division of Law Enforcement is to protect our natural resources and ensure compliance with all environmental conservation laws through the law enforcement and education while constantly maintaining the health and safety of the public. So they're going to need some more cops to watch our every move on anything concerning the environment. Because we're environmental criminals, so it seems. Continuing on. How to become an environmental police officer. I kid you not. They're marketing for people. Maybe somebody could get shot for picking a daisy. A career as an environmental police officer is a highly competitive. The best chances for success come from not only meeting the position's requirements, but exceeding them. A love of the outdoors is essential, because environmental police officers will enforce laws regarding hunting, fishing. Participation in these activities is desired for building good working relationships. The job has great physical demands, often under harsh weather conditions. A prospective candidate must possess both the physical and mental strength to carry out his position. Environmental police officers often work alone. Self-motivation is essential. So we're going to arm people to go out there and be a police officer for the environment. All right. How to become a community police officer. Get the necessary education. Take as many biology, conservation, and science courses as you can. An environmental police officer's job includes a wide range of duties in addition to law enforcement. A broad range gives a good knowledge base of which to draw from. Yeah, I agree with that. Target a few agencies. Find out what additional requirements may be necessary for the agencies you have selected. Some agencies may require a written examination, background checks, drug testing, and physical agility testing. Stay current with local conservation issues. To become an effective officer, knowledge of current environmental and conservation issues is essential. Become familiar with current research and conservation trends as part of what will be required once you are hired. Learn to swim if you do not already know how, some agencies require officers to be able to swim, especially in areas with many lakes, or if duties will include enforcement on boating regulations. Study basic engine repair. Some agencies operate under tight budgets. An environmental police officer will have to fix his own equipment when possible. Knowing basic repair will increase an officer's efficiency and help save time. So, all this stuff. Environmental protection. Police officers to police us. But who's policing them when they're doing all this? And this. Just find it ironic. They're going to increase the police state so we don't mess with anything on the ground, in the air. You won't be able to step on the grass. It'll be a crime. Maybe? It already is in some places. These are the different transmitters around the world. You can go look these up. Plenty of information. Different configurations. Why would they do this? It cannot be good for humans. Causing craziness in the sky? Just thought I'd take a look at a couple more books to kind of support my theory on the motivation and who's behind the scenes. If people don't know it, they ought to know it. But most of the people in politics that get to high positions, senator, representative, and presidents and all that, come from one organization or another under the title The Mystery Schools of Babylon, this New Age religion. Originated out of Jerusalem, Israel, with King Solomon's temple and all that stuff, like the Freemasons. Title of this book is Freemasonry Exposed. One of the fraternity who has devoted 30 years to the subject. So Captain W. Morgan wrote this book and exposes Freemasonry. He was murdered for that. It was a big thing in the papers back then. And in the 67, let me see here, 1967, I got a good memory. They were worried that peace would break out. I kid you not. So they had to come up with some other tools to keep the people patriotic to the state, obedient and subservient to the state. So there had to be a continuation of crises. This was 1967. Report from Iron Mountain. If you want to use books, I can get it. Valuable book. Iron Mountain is a base in upstate New York. They got some elitists from all over the world to come up with different schemes and things they could do to keep the people in fear and needing the government to take care of them. And everything from environmental issues, weather issues, terrorist issues, economic issues, everything. It's all detailed in this book. I've read it all. I made a video on it. And actually, I may not have made a video on it. I may have just referenced it numerous times. I probably should make a video on it. So it's an interesting read, and it describes everything we're experiencing. And then again, back in 72, I think. 74, 72. 72, 74. What do you think they were worried about? Overpopulation. They've been worried about that for 100 years. It's a fraud. It's a deception. It's an excuse. They don't want this many people in the world because it would just be a much nicer place without people in the world for them, these elitists. They need enough for their slaves, whether it's worker slaves, entertainment slaves, sex slaves, and maybe for nutrient, blood and flesh if they really are into some of the things they're into. The reptilians and stuff we discuss. As said by many people in videos, people who have escaped or who were involved with the Illuminati or witchcraft, and even in Hollywood, and came and went public. You can listen to their stories like Arizona Wilder and David Icke. There's so many of them. And they're on my website, rickmiracle.com. I've cataloged some of these. I've saved the links to them. Whole pages of these people describing the conspiracy, behind the scenes, the activities. Horrible stuff. So this is by Donna Meadows, Dennis Meadows, Ranger. A report from the Club of Rome's project on predicament of mankind. Predicament of mankind. Look at the bottom there. Predicament of mankind. Too many people. Now think about that. Skyspraying, HARP systems. These people are not kidding. Who are these people? Well, Jewish famous author in Canada, Henry McCall, PhD, wrote a book, Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. So one of my friends made a funny or whatever he was doing, said, Rick, are you an anti-Semite? I'm reading books by Jewish people with PhDs who are telling us there's these conspiracies behind the scenes wanting to take over the world. And another book I have here, Conspirators' Hierarchy, the story of the Committee of 300. Dr. John Coleman, and I just flipped it open this morning, first time ever opening this book. I bought it years ago, I'm sure. I'm just going to read you my little highlighted paragraph I found just by flipping this book open. And as I do, think about what they can dump in the sky and what I'm about to say. And for private everyday use, there have always been chemical intoxicants, all the vegetable sedatives and narcotics, all the euphorics that grow on trees, the hallucinogens that ripen in berries, that have been used by humans since times immemorial. And to those modifiers of consciousness, modern science has added its quota of synthetics. For unrestricted use, the West has permitted only alcohol and tobacco. All other chemical doors in the wall are labeled dope. To the oligarchs and the plutocrats, that would be those Freemasons, Illuminati, Zionists, Jesuits, all the people behind, CEOs, Bill Gates, Ted Turners. To the oligarchs and plutocrats of the Committee of 300, drugs have a twofold purpose. Firstly, to bring in colossal sums of money. And secondly, to eventually turn a major part of the population into mindless drug zombies who will be easier to control than people who don't need drugs. As punishment for rebellion will mean withholding the supplies of heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, etc. So they're going to use these chemicals and drugs, one, to create zombies out of humans, and put everybody in an addicted state. And then we see, just a thought here, that they're dumping stuff in the sky. We don't know what they could put in that stuff. They did take over Afghanistan. They do have access to Brazil and heroin, opium, cocaine. They have all kinds of synthetics. Just saying, plausible? We don't know because they don't tell us what they're dumping. There's been all kinds of research. Some people say there's been dried blood in the stuff dumped from the sky. All kinds of craziness. For this is necessary to legalize drugs so that a monopoly system which has been readied for introduction once severe economic conditions, so they want to create severe economic conditions. They know the people will be suffering largely, of which the 1991 Depression is a forerunner, caused drug users to proliferate as hundreds of thousands of permanently jobless workers turned to drugs for solents. They know the result of the things they're doing. In one of the Royal Institute of International Affairs' top secret papers, the scenario is laid out as follows. Having been failed by Christianity, that's what they want us to think. They've been intentionally trying to destroy Christianity through the school systems and the media since the early 1900s. Even had congressional hearings that the communists had infiltrated Christian institutions and other institutions to destroy them. So what is the result? Having been failed by Christianity. I am aware, and so are other people, that back in, I'm just going to make a little chart here. So this is today. 65%, 35%, 1990, probably 1999. So back in 1999, where my finger is, 35% of the people might have been approving gay marriage and other activities. Today, 65 or 70% do. Now, knowing what I know, where my finger is, now, back in 1991, 70% or more people believed in God. I think the number is higher. But today, over here, only 35% believe in God, while now almost 65-70% believe in gay marriage. When one rises, the other drops. And if we've been paying attention to my videos or your own research, you know there has been a premeditated program of propaganda, whether TV programs, magazines, shows like Ellen on TV, children's education in school, cartoons, movies, etc. Press releases with these heartbreaking stories about some poor afflicted gay person. And then, of course, all kinds of material trying to destroy and discredit Christianity and other religions and the Arabs. So the program is well underway, and there is a program. That's my point to this whole conversation. There is a program. It is working. These are the people who are skyspraying us, controlling the drug trade, building HARP systems, and all kinds of unbelievable weapons. More aircraft carriers, more powerful jets, lasers on the front of planes and boats and ships. Yeah, ships now have laser beams. They can take down a plane. And then they're also into the biological warfare and sky spraying. Concerning? All right, back to this book, and then I'll get back to my documents. Having been failed by Christianity, again, premeditated, coming out of the United Nations with propaganda, even in the school systems. A lot of people have seen the research and other people, the arguments and the books. I've shown many of this information. I've verified this is true. And with unemployment on every hand, which they're doing intentionally, somebody didn't move all those jobs to China by accident. Those who have been without jobs for 5 years or more will turn away from the church and seek solace in drugs. This is when full control of the drug trade must be completely in order that the governments of all countries who are under our jurisdiction will have a monopoly which we will control through supply. Drug bars will take care of the unruly and discontent. Would-be revolutionaries will be turned into harmless addicts with no will of their own. So they want to appease everybody with drugs. Just like right now, without the jobs, they're appeasing everybody with food stamps and Social Security checks and other kinds of welfare. Not that we shouldn't be getting Social Security checks when we work our whole lives. But they've got so many people on these benefits right now, not working, that whenever they decide to cut it off, they will create the situation as described in this book. There is ample evidence that the CIA and British intelligence, especially MI6, have already spent at least a decade working towards this goal. When was this book published? I'd like to pay attention to that. 1992 by John Coleman. The Royal Institute of International Affairs used the lifetime work of Aldous Huxley and Bulwer Lytton as a blueprint to bring about a state where mankind will no longer have wills of their own in the one world government, one new world order of the fast approaching new dark age. They want to bring about this chaos and anarchy that George Bush Sr. said. So did George Bush Jr., so did Bill Clinton, so did Obama, so did the Pope, so did Kissinger, and so many more. A new world order is required. And I'm describing some of the activities. And knowing that these are the people that are sky spraying chemicals in the sky, and HARP systems and other activities that are just too much to be believed. But apparently if you investigate, it's true. So in many societies at many levels of civilization, attempts have been made to fuse drug intoxication with God intoxication. In ancient Greece, for example, ethanol alcohol had its place in the established religions. Dionysus, Bukos, as he was often called, was a true divinity. Complete prohibition of chemical changes can be decreed but cannot be enforced. The language of the pro-drug lobby on Capitol Hill. Now let us consider another type of drug, still undiscovered, but probably just around the corner. A drug making people happy in situations where they would be normally feel miserable. Remember, we got that microwave transmitter. And yes, frequencies can make you happy, and frequencies can make you upset. They can control the people's mood. Is there anyone more miserable than a person who has sought and been unable to find work? Such a drug would be a blessing, but a blessing fraught with grave social and political dangers. By making a harmless chemical euphoric freely available, a dictator, read Committee of 300, could reconcile an entire population to the state of affairs to which self-respecting human beings ought not to be reconciled. So again, I just flipped this book open when I looked up my shelf for a few books I wanted to share on this video. And I could have probably flipped it open any place else and found some more insane things that relate to this problem. What are they doing to our environment? Just noticing another document, and I had a thought. But when Moses freed the Hebrews from Egypt, slavery, according to my research and studies, and they got to the land of Canaan, which they said God gave to them. And I'm not arguing that point, but the point is it was inhabited by beings. And they could have been giants, Nephilim. But anyways, they had to destroy all the beings, the people that lived there. Just a little bit of ancient history. And as we know, when the United Nations and others, with the conspiracy, admitted the Balfour Agreement, taking World War I and World War II to bring it about, but they annexed a little bit of the Palestinians' land to create a state of Israel, just on a small portion of Palestine. Now, of course, the Palestinians only own a portion. So this time around, they have to kill everybody there again. And apparently they have aspirations for a much larger area, from my research, from the Euphrates River over in Baghdad, Iraq, to the Nile down by Egypt, which is half the size of the United States. And we know that they've been murdering all the Arabs and shipping them to Europe and the United States and elsewhere. So they are trying to kill everybody off for a huge swath of land. We know they have nukes, the Israelis, and we know they have something called the Samson option. If anybody tries to stop them, they will release the nukes and take down all the cities in flames. The Samson option. And Samson was somebody who was chained to a couple big pilings, and he pulled them together and brought the whole roof down and destroyed him and everybody else, hence the Samson option. And apparently now with the troops massing in Saudi Arabia, 2016 February, there is an desire to take down Assad that's been taking quite a while for the past few years, frustrating NATO and Israel and other leaders. But relentlessly, they're going in there machine gunning and bombing and destroying buildings and murdering people. And apparently with their eye on Iran. A huge, decent country. So anyways, I only mention all this because in my documents from 2012, there's this other document here, just pointing out how long these people have been bent on destroying a lot of other people on this planet. Like in Exodus, thousands of years ago. Like we saw in Palestine recently. Like we see in the Middle East now. It looks like they really are wanting to get rid of most of we the people. And they got this little chart. Exodus population, when Jehovah your God shall bring you into the land where you go to possess it, and has cast out many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Pezerites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than you. But God helped them destroy all those people back then. So apparently their God helped to kill all those people. And apparently their God, I guess, is helping them with kill all the Palestinians and now all the Arabs. And apparently they have their eye on the USA, Canada, Europe, and the rest of the world, as we've seen. And then these are the people in control of sky spraying and HARP systems. And again, on this document, you can see their obsession with the population. Look at this chart. Notice how it goes off to a tangent since the year, I don't know, 1800s. This is the population for thousands of years. And here in a couple hundred years, that's what they would have you believe. Strange? You can look this up here. AccuracyIngenious.com. Here's the website. So here I am in 2012, not knowing what to think, doing my research, seeing stuff like this, and seeing books here where they're obsessed with the population. And then have all these organizations, Freemasons and other Mystery School of Babylon temples and lodges, trying to destroy Christianity and God. Writing books like To Eliminate the Opaque. Creating programs like biodiversity and sustainability and global warming, global cooling, climate change, terrorism, plagues, and everything else. It doesn't take a genius to see that this is all orchestrated. Not a good day in the future if they get away with this. for the rest of us. All right, back to another document in my pile from 2012. And just had to introduce all those other books and pictures to try to get a broad view of what this might all be about. In ancient history and current history, lots of people have died for this presumed God's chosen people to return to their chosen land, or the land that God gave them. And did God give them the whole planet now? And do we all have to die? As in the books I've shown you, the Jewish Utopia, and the other books I went over. Crazy, I know. The government is already geoengineering the environment. Remember, this is my research back in 2012. We had that big fear of the Mayan end of the world calendar thing. Radio shows were talking about having end of the world parties because the Mayan calendar was ending 2012. The Associated Press reports today, this is Associated Press, that the Obama administration has held discussions regarding the possibility of geoengineering the Earth's climate to counter global warming by shooting pollution particles into the upper atmosphere to reflect the sun's rays. However, such programs are already being conducted by government-affiliated universities, government agencies, and on a mass scale through chemtrail spraying. So back in 2012, they admit they're really doing it, but the government wants to continue to deny it when you can look up and see it and take a picture or a video, or find all kinds of documentation that I have here. The AP report states that Obama's science advisor, John Holdren, is pushing for radical terraforming programs to be explored, such as creating an artificial volcano. Despite Holdren's admission that such measures could have grave side effects, he added that we might get desperate enough to want to use it. Well, they got the HAARP transmitters. I suppose they could create an artificial volcano. And Holdren says if they get desperate enough, they might want to use that. Oh my. Holdren, a 65-year-old physicist, is far from alone in taking geoengineering more seriously. The National Academy of Science is making climate tinkering the subject of its first workshop in the new multidisciplined Climate Challenges program. The British Parliament has also discussed the idea. The American Meteorological Society is crafting a policy statement on geoengineering and says it is prudent to consider geoengineering's potential to understand its limits and to avoid rash deployment. You think? However, a study of past and ongoing upper atmosphere aerosol programs confirms that the government has been active in this field for years. The Atmospheric Radiation Measurement ARM program was created in 1989 with funding from the U.S. Department of Energy and sponsored by the Department of Energy's Office of Science and managed by the Office of Biological and Environmental Research. One of ARM's programs, entitled Indirect and Semi-Direct Aerosol Campaign, is aimed at measuring cloud simulations and aerosol retrievals. I'm not going to read all this, but you get the idea. You can look up this document. Another program under the Department of Energy's Atmospheric Science program is directed towards developing comprehensive understanding of the atmospheric processes that control the transport, transformation, and fate of energy-related trace chemicals and particulate matter. They plan on dumping sulfur into the air. The following health effects are linked with exposure of sulfur: Neurological and behavioral changes. There we go again. Remember I just went over with the Committee of 300? Behavioral changes. You don't think they're measuring all this stuff? Just doing things and seeing what happens to the population below. Maybe the amount of people who get rushed to the emergency room. The increase in heart attacks when they turn on HAARP. We don't know what they're doing because they don't tell us. And they think that we're going cattle, and they do desire to reduce the population by 80-90%. And historically, they've done that when they went to the land of Canaan. When we gave them, the Zionist Jewish people, a small portion of the Palestinians' land. And now the Palestinians have a small portion. And then, of course, now a lot of the Middle Eastern countries have been overthrown and destroyed, and the citizens murdered, millions, and the others fleeing to Europe and the United States. Think what you will, but it seems like that's the truth. So sulfur, they want to dump sulfur into the air, or maybe they already have. Neurological effects and behavioral changes. Disturbances in blood circulation, heart damage, effects on eyes and eyesight, reproductive failure, there you go, population reduction, reproductive failure, damage to immune systems, stomach and gastrointestinal disorder, damage to liver and kidney functions, hearing defects, disturbances in hormone metabolism, dermatology effects, suffocating and lung embolism. And I only read my highlighted portion on the top one paragraph and that little list right there. More on this document, page 3. Given all the immediate dangers associated with bombarding the atmosphere with sulfur dioxide, along with other unknown dangers and other geoengineering projects, many people are concerned that chemtrails are a secret component of the same agenda to alter the Earth's ecosystem. Remember, Agenda 21, now called Agenda 2030, and if you divide 20 by 30, you get 666. And biodiversity, and I've shown biodiversity maps where they plan on making more than 50% of the United States off limits to human beings, period, with buffer zones around that, herding the people into the cities, and if they bring about out an event for martial law, they'll be herding people into FEMA camps. Remember Russia, Revolution 1917. They sent a bunch of Jewish folks trained from New York City into Russia, abducted the Tsar and his family, took them off into the country, killed them, and proceeded to kill 100 million other people, Christians and other good people, over the next 10 plus years, and destroy the Christian churches, but not the Jewish temple. Why? And then, of course, in Germany, they would have us believe it was only Jews who were abducted and imprisoned and gas chambered, when apparently it might be true that there were Jews, unwanted ones, probably Orthodox ones, not part of the Zionist campaign. There is a big divide in the Jewish camp, the non-Zionist Jewish people and the Zionist Jewish people, as I've gone over in my videos. But apparently in Germany and Poland, it wasn't just Jews, it was other people for labor. Homosexuals, poor people, unwanted people. They didn't care, they needed laborers. And they worked them to death, and for the dead bodies, they had to put them in gas chambers like we do in America and the world today, called cremation. Nothing mysterious about wanting to get rid of dead bodies to prevent disease. So what is the truth? And there seems to be a lot of material out there that the truth has been stretched to benefit a few people who now want to take over the world. What's new, right? 2008 stock market crash and given themselves trillions of dollars that they did not spend on us. We haven't benefited. The world's going down the tubes economically. And unless the people wake up and turn it around, it won't turn around. One key thing people could do is to get right with God. Just saying, they're worshiping the devil, Lucifer. And pay more attention to what's going on. Get a little active. Prayer works. I believe that we're spiritual beings in these biological bodies. And like you saw that book, To Eliminate the Opaque, they don't want us to pray and believe in God. And if they don't want me to pray and believe in God, then I think I better pray and believe in God, because they're afraid of that. Just saying, it is what it is. Given all the immediate dangers associated with the bombing of the atmosphere with sulfur dioxide, chemtrails are a secret component of the same agenda to alter the Earth's ecosystem. I think they want to take away our resources to survive and grow anything. Monsanto seeds. So here I am in 2012 studying this stuff. Going, man. But I didn't want to formulate an opinion, so I studied for a few more years. This graphic proposes spraying aluminum powder and barium oxide into high levels of the atmosphere, again delivering by aircraft, to increase planetary reflectance, albedo, and cloud cover. High levels of barium have been found in substances associated with chemtrails. Reports of chemtrails, jet plumes emitted from planes that hang in the air for hours and do not dissipate, often blanketing the sky in crisscross patterns, we saw the pictures here, have increased dramatically over the past 10 years. Many have speculated that they are part of a government program to alter climate, inoculate humans against certain pathogens, and even to toxify humans as part of the population reduction agenda. So there's got another whole page here. You can go look it up. I read only a tidbit. This was on kickthemallout.com. You can look up that title there and get that document. Another document. Obama's science chief eyes drastic climate steps. Tinkering with Earth's climate to chill runaway global warming, a radical idea once dismissed out of hand, is being discussed by the White House as a potential emergency option, the president's new science advisor said Wednesday. So nothing drastically has changed in the world, and it's 2016. But even back then, it was an emergency option. Recently, the Pope said it was an emergency option. Obama in 2016, or the end of 2015, said it was an emergency option. And meanwhile, they've been spraying and running these systems all along. Makes one wonder, are they creating all the problems? And the Hegelian philosophy is that's exactly what you do. You create the problem, and then you come up with the solution. And dumping stuff in the sky even causes mental effects on humans. Behavioral. That's a fact. I've studied a lot, as we've all known, me showing the fact that I know how to find water with stuff and use pendulums to find lost people. In all of that holistic healing and stuff like that, all the research, different vibrational frequencies does alter our behavioral mood. We can be made to feel euphoric and happy, or angry and rage, just by emitting a frequency. Think about that. So they're getting away with this spraying and radiation of frequencies for quite a while. What are they doing? What's the end result? That's because global warming is happening so rapidly. John Holdren told the Associated Press in his first interview since being confirmed last month. So when was this article? This article was put out in 2009. So in 2009, it was an emergency. This is 2016. The concept of using technology to purposely cool the climate is called geoengineering. One option raised by Holdren and proposed by Nobel Prize winner scientists includes shooting pollution particles into the upper atmosphere to reflect the sun's rays. His concern is the United States and other nations won't slow global warming fast enough, and that several tipping points could be fast approaching. One such milestone Once such milestones are reached, such as complete loss of summer sea ice in the Arctic, it increases chances of really intolerable consequences. Twice in a half-hour interview, Holdren compared global warming to being in a car with bad brakes driving towards a cliff in the fog. He and many experts believe that warming of a few degrees would lead to disastrous drought conditions, food shortages, and in some regions, rising seas and more powerful coastal storms in others. I'm going to say this again and again and again. You can't control the weather. Whatever they do, there's something more sinister afoot here. It's not about controlling the weather. It's a planet. They can't control it. A lot of the weather is controlled by the sun flares from the sun. El Nino cycles in the ocean. So what's really going on? Is it part of the New World Order, New Age, population reduction, or I should say population destruction, for the people who want to live on this planet in a new age? But they will need to keep enough people for slaves. Worker slaves, sex slaves, entertainment, all kinds of things. There's something sinister going on here, in my opinion. He and many experts believe that the warming of a few degrees would lead to disastrous drought conditions, food shortages, and in some regions, rising seas, and powerful coastal storms in others. And that book I just went over, Report from Iron Mountain, describes that they have to have those kinds of threats and fears to feed we the public so they can keep us under control. And part of the threats will be sustainability, global warming, biodiversity, and everything else to increase the police state. They have plans for us. They're going to cause an event, it seems. Looks like everybody's talking about World War III. Jade Helm 15 last year. It was insane, putting all those troops and stuff in the news and making people perplexed and scared. Walmart's closing, turning them into FEMA camp. The government buying 450 hollow point bullets. At first, Holden characterized the potential need to technologically tinker with the climate as just his personal view. However, he went on to say he had raised it in the administrative discussions. And there's another whole page here. I'm not reading, you can look up. It gets crazier. Another document, 2012, I printed out. They got these stones in Georgia called the guide stones. I drove down to this location and saw these stones, investigated them myself. On one of the highest hilltops in Iberton County, Georgia, stands a huge granite monument, engraved in 8 different languages on one of the 4 giant stones that support the common capstones are 10 guides or commandments. That monument is alternately referred to as the Georgia Guidestones or the American Stonehenge. Though relatively unknown to most people, it is an important link to the occult hierarchy that dominates the world in which we live. Everything I keep saying points to these Illuminati, Freemasons, Zionists, Jesuits, Kabbalah people, symbols on TV programming, football halftime show with the satanic rituals with Madonna, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Katy Perry riding the bull, Grammys, Olympic openings. It just goes on and on. The music, listen to the lyrics. The origin of that strange monument is shrouded in mystery because no one knows the true identity of the man or men who commissioned its construction. Although it is known for certain that in June 1979, getting tired of speaking, a well-dressed, articulate stranger visited the office of the Eberton Granite Finishing Company and announced he wanted to build an edifice to transmit a message to mankind. He identified himself as R.C. Christian. Well, that gives it away right there. That's in all the Rosicrucian books I have. Those are affiliate Mystery School of Babylon organizations into the New Age religion, basically paganism, Luciferianism, Satanism, etc. But it soon became apparent that was not his real name. He said he represented a group of men who wanted to offer direction to humanity. These are the same people who are spraying the chemicals in the sky, controlling the Federal Reserve, controlling the war effort in the Middle East, desiring to take down Assad, murdering all the people in Syria, planning on doing that to Iran, have done it to Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt and Tunisia and many other places, Ukraine, and apparently have some plans for we the people in the United States. Anyway, so there's 12 commandments here on the Georgia Guidestones. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. You can't believe anything that's said here. Guide reproduction wisely. Improving fitness and diversity. Remember the biodiversity document I showed you in sustainability coming out of the United Nations, which is another Mystery School of Babylon organization. Unite humanity with a living new language. Man, they have high aspirations. We're all going to speak a new living new language. Rule of passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. We don't see that happening now with the gazillionaires owning 99% of the wealth and the rest of us getting poorer. Don't believe what they say, believe what they're doing. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love. Seek harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. So I encourage anybody who's interested to look up the Georgia Guidestones and read about them for yourself. A clear testimony towards the plans they have for the rest of us. Alright, so here I was back there in 2012, and another document. Human race being terminated by scientific suicide. Mike Adams, Natural News. This is, without question, the most important article I have ever penned, because it discusses the idea that the human race is being destroyed in the name of science. Stopping those scientists from destroying our world and our civilization must become our top priority if we hope to survive. The entire northern hemisphere is now imminently threatened by a massive global killer, radiation released from the failing Fukushima reactor number 4. Man, so that thing's been leaking since 2012. Funny how time passes, you forget. And even recently, in 2015, there were a lot of major fish kills and other activities off the coast of California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska. This is a horrific event. Our world is right now just one earthquake away from a radiological apocalypse. And we were put in this position by scientists who promised us that nuclear power would be safe and inexpensive. Even as we live under the immediate threat of cesium-137, induced radiological extinction, another group of genetic scientists threatens the future of our world with self-replicating genetic pollution. These scientists work for Monsanto, DuPont, and other biotech firms that have compromised the future of life on Earth in order to seek their own selfish profits. Bill Gates and all the others who have promoted GMOs and allowed them to be unleashed into our world are guilty of nothing less than crimes against both the human race and nature itself. They are a threat to the continuum of life on Earth and must be stopped. Wow, back in 2012. Toxic pesticides that kill the soils and rivers. Death by science. There's a list here. I'm not going to read all of this document. It's numerous pages here. Toxic chemical medications that kill humans and pollute downstream waters. The mass poisoning of the population with toxic combinations of industrial waste products called fluoride. Nuclear bombs that have already decimated civilian populations. Mammograms and other medical imaging devices that actually cause cancer. Chemotherapy poisons, preventive mastectomies, cancer radiation treatments. The mass mercury poisoning of children through dental and amalgams. They call it science-based dentistry. What's clear from all of this is the human race is being murdered in the name of science. I'm saying we're under attack. So there's so much more in this document. I would love to read it all, but you can go look it up. May 7, 2012. Just type in the keywords at the top there. I'll try to poke around here and read some of it, some of the different things. In the worlds of GMOs, it's not about actually feeding the world, as is ridiculously claimed by its corrupt criminal pushers. It's actually about owning the world and using food as a weapon against the people of the world. He who controls the food supply eventually controls everything. Monsanto is hell-bent on world domination, not world nourishment. Interestingly enough, if you look up Monsanto and you go online to a numerology calculator, it equals 666. Can't make that up. Because next, I'm just skipping around here, we can count on the rise of robot drones in the name of science. A new race of Terminator machines, unmanned artificial intelligence drones, with the capability to mindlessly unleash bombs and bullets on civilian populations. Such drones will be developed in the name of science, of course with all the predictable ego-driven fantasies of their geek-headed inventors who, with all their superior intellect, have still failed to study human history. Even if the drones don't get us, nanotechnology may yet spell our demise. Scientists are already running dangerous experiments with nanotechnology. And if just one such experiment in a self-replicating nanotech gray goo, our entire world would be inescapably devoured by self-replicating microscopic machines that can make GMOs seem tame by comparison. So what are they dumping in the sky when they're flying over your house? Painting the sky white. The top 10 scientific projects threatening the survival of the human race. Nuclear power, GMOs, nanotechnology, bioweapons, atmospheric experiments, high-altitude sky spraying, HARP systems, artificial intelligence, AI when coupled with killer drones hardware, particle accelerator, physics experiments, large Hadron Collider, with the statue of the goddess of destruction, Shiva, out front over there in Geneva, and on the Swiss border, and French border, and a 666 in their logo. Pollinator disruption channels, synthetic pesticides that destroy honeybee colonies, nuclear weapons, vaccines, live cross-species viral material being injected into human targets. So there's more here. You can go look up the document. I got some notes, comments by people. One guy says, how do you stop the scientists and others who are deliberately doing things to reduce the population, yet they continuously deny doing such things? Well, I'm going to cut it short. I got more documents, but I'm worn out of speaking. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.